Thank you so much to our wonderful esteemed speakers for sharing their insightful thoughts and thought-provoking insights for the previous session. Thank you so much, everyone. Now we have our next session, which is on how can banking and financial institution seize opportunities to start winning today. For this particular session, we have Mr. V. Rajesh Kumar, Information Technology Consultant and ex-head IT Infrastructure and Software Development for ICICI Bank. And with him, please help me welcome Mr. Vikas Prasad, Director Service Line Sales, India, South Asia for Kyndryl India. Thank you so much. Over to you, Vikas.
Good afternoon, all. Welcome to the Economic Times Global Digital League. We're going to talk about the financial sector today, right? The challenges post the pandemic era. While there's no doubt that this pandemic has accelerated the technology adoption amongst all businesses by many, many years, right? The very fact that we all connected on a digital platform today rather than doing this face to face is just one of the use cases, right? And who knows, going forward, when we get to experience the world of metaverse, it will take this idea to a very, very different level. The opportunities and challenges of all businesses have shifted over the last 1.5 years, right? And to draw context to the financial institutions in specific, it is challenging the traditional banking business models, creating a lot of revenue pressures, because of low profitability, increase in interest rates, higher levels of capital, tighter regulations, especially after the financial crisis of the past. And again, the competition, the changing competition in the form of shadow bankings and the new digital entrance of fintechs is not helping the cause. Therefore, it is compelling the financial institutions to reinvent their business model. Right? I'm Vikas Prasad, director at Kyndryl, and I'm joined today with Ramesh Kumar, who's a veteran in the banking industry, has worked with the largest bank ICICI in the past, and currently working as a consultant, for many private banks in India. Ramesh has experienced many such transformations in the past, and today, we'll hear from him in the areas where the banks seek to push the technology lever to enhance the customer experience, service effectiveness, and operational efficiencies, right? And all of this in the face of the challenges that we have ahead of us, and of course, the budget, which is never there, right? So Ramesh, the question here is, over the past decade, cloud has become an integral part of every transformation strategy, right? Which allows the organization access to the latest technologies, right? And you have got vast vendors to choose from. And of course, reimagine the business processes and the ecosystems, right? All of this while protecting your existing investments, right? So in this context, what is your point of view on how financial institutions are accelerating the journey to cloud?
I think because I think first question itself, you start with the six, I believe. Yeah. So this something is interesting across the organizations or across the industry. If you look at, maybe if you have spoken this cloud journey around 2-3 years back, maybe the things I would have said that no, because at the time, so I think we at least in the organization which we have worked is multiple times we try to do ROI story of going to the cloud. As we found that the cloud looks to be very expensive, let's continue where we are now. But the thing is, I think this pandemic has really accelerated the way you put it. As the pandemic has really accelerated, the digital transactions have increased multifold. I think the kind of agility which is required to handle this kind of volume, I think on-premise it has become really next to impossible. I think the way we looked at it is cloud, rather than looking at a cost optimization, we looked at more in terms of bringing the agility, bringing in more in terms of availability. I think that's one of the prime aspects in which the organization started looking at. Can you start looking at the cloud journey for any of our future investments? Because the biggest problem in many of the BFS segment is the legacy technology and legacy application which is running on-premise. So if we do a simple lift and shift, it will not give any benefit of going to the cloud rather than punching my purse. I think that is where the people have started looking at. While any new investment, let's look at the cloud as a medium and use all cloud native component for efficient usage of this, and all the legacy application which is on the on-premise, start looking at modernizing those applications. Once you modernize this application, then that gives the agility even on-premise also. Then you take a call whether you want to put on the cloud based on the cost factors, based on the component which you want to use it, whether you want to invest or whether you want to rebuild, kind of thing. These are something. But if you look at more and more the new solution, more and more security solutions are coming on cloud as a SaaS model. I think this is where the investment has happened, especially during the pandemic. Security has become one of the paramount importance for it. I think a lot of investment on the security side has happened on the cloud side, or SaaS model. I think the moment you start moving it, I think it's like moment of inertia. As long as you're stationary, nothing will move. So once you start moving it, once you get that traction, once one thing moves and maybe other will follow. I think that's the stage where the entire, I could see BFSI industry is going in. All the new investment, try to put on the cloud. Any existing one, put a plan to migrate to the cloud. Any of this legacy where you cannot change it, try to continue on premise as long as it still in the legacy architecture. It cannot be modernized. It cannot be a commodity hardware kind of thing. Yeah, this is the currently there's a stage where we are now. But I think definitely entire organization are looking at cloud first strategy.
Absolutely, Ramesh. So very well put, right? It's going to be a hybrid environment for some more time, right? The legacy on-prem and a combination of cloud and who knows, multiple cloud, right? Now, though this increases the complexity of managing multiple environments, but I completely understand. I guess that should be forward for at least another couple of years till the time everything is going to be on cloud. Ramesh, the next point here is about data, right? Earlier, data was looked at it at very differently, right? Today, it's a new currency. Our ex-CEO did talk about that. It's the new oil, right? There are many quotes about this in the media. It's growing exponentially, right? That's one of the facts. Challenges, facing the enterprise-wide AI deployment, right? The data is, if you have to leverage data, you have to adopt AI, and organizations are finding challenging to derive value from the data. What's your opinion on how financial institutions are looking at data, in terms of AI and automation to transform its core operations?
I think because if you look at maybe a couple of years back, if you look at the data, most of the organizations the data more for MIS reporting kind of. But now the things have started changing it, because they started understanding if you don't understand your customer well, there is always a possibility a customer will move away, because especially all the young generation, millennial, what you call it, there is nothing called stickiness kind of thing. They see that if there's a value coming from this organization, I'll stick to it. If I don't see it, I'll move on something else. I think that is where a lot of organizations started looking at the way you put the term, data is the new oil. I think data is, that coin and that word really applies as long as you use the data right. Because as long as in the raw format, it will not help you in any way. So it has to be refined, similar to oil kind of thing. You need to refine the oil, and similarly, you need to refine the data and ensure that you get a lot of insights into the data to understand the customer better. How can you start using the data to understand the customer better so that you can start predicting it what the customer wants it in the future? I think one of the example I keep hearing is saying that how can you start travel with a customer right from his birth to till his passing away? How can you start predicting it? If you know that, if you come to know that the customer is something is joining into the college now, can you start looking at maybe after 4 years, maybe after 2 years, he'll jump into a professional organization. Can I start giving the educational loan? After professional colleges, there he'll go for a marriage. Can we look at a marriage loan? After that, you'll go for a house loan or car loan. Maybe after that, lot of things in the entire lifespan of the user. I think there will be multiple stages. Every stage, can you start helping him in terms of deciding what he wants it? And similarly, data is something which has been used to understand the customer, not only understand the customer, also giving a right kind of a data, right kind of offer. So the classic example is, if you have the data, if you're able to capture the data in real-time basis, when the customer is, let's say, on the shopping mall, doing a transaction, if you capture it on a real-time basis and try to look at the data, apply your AML algorithm to see if this customer, based on his past transaction data, and if he's in the shopping mall, then this is the next shop he's going to go. Then offer some discount in that shop. If you go to this shop, then this is the discount I can offer if you use maybe so-and-so bank card. This how the data can be used so that when the customer is in the shopping mall, the possibility of going to other shop and using this offer is much higher when he walks, rather than when he walks out of the shopping mall and he gets the offer next day. I think these are the some areas we are using AML in a big way, understand the customer in a better way. How can you start offering in a better living and better offers to him? And also in terms of this, AML is also helping in terms of how do you start gathering the data across multiple systems and collate it and use the data for meaningful information. I think this is something almost all the organizations are spending a huge money on this. I think this is where a lot of organizations also looking at the cloud as one of the options where they can move to this data warehouse onto the cloud and start using a lot of the inbuilt components available on the cloud for doing this AML algorithms and know your customer in a better way.
Absolutely, which was only very difficult to adopt earlier because it doesn't made economic sense, right? To create solutions within your organizations. So cloud is making that possible. And you said it right? It's all about how can you make sense out of the data that you have, right? When it comes to infrastructure services, you did talk about AI ML, but when it is services, AI ops is possibly the best use cases when it comes to the day to manage services, right? And therefore, not only being reactive but helps being proactive and reducing downtimes.
Yeah, I think that is where also a lot of organizations started looking at AI seriously. While they might be at the starting stage kind of thing, but I think everybody is aware of that AI. I think the people have started looking at serious AI in terms of bringing more stability to their organization.
Absolutely, Ramesh. The previous session was all about security. Let me just get a flavor of that in this question. See, regulatory and security compulsions just go hand in hand when it comes to the financial sector, right? They were very unfriendly. They were not cloud savvy earlier, but times have changed, right? Cloud benefits, as you mentioned, have got agility, cost savings, faster provisioning in across all areas, right, including security. Security architectures have evolved, such as hybrid cloud, and can cost effectively comply with a wide array of regulations. Can you delve more about the security and the data sovereignty part in the financial sector?
Yeah, coming back to because I think now security has become absolutely a critical factor. I think when anybody breaches it, I think the way the organization look at it, first you need to breach security and anything else after that. I think because if you look at the way security is being looked at, is any breach of the security is looked at the reputation risk. And when I was looking at, I was visiting a couple of data centers, the way they are saying that they have 7 layers of security, right from physical security till you reach your server in the rack. I think similar to that, I think even BFSI also, they've invested a lot on the security. And thanks to this pandemic and fraudsters, I think all the security OEMs might be thanking them for increasing their business. I think that awareness of security frauds has come because of this and because of this phishing attack, ransomware attacks. I think if you look at maybe 2 years or 3 years back, nobody might have spoken about CASB solution. Nobody might have talked about XDR kind of a solution kind of thing. But now if you look at this, something has become a necessity to survive and to take care of the security. At least you know what is happening kind of thing. I think security is something of paramount importance to the BFSI. Not only BFSI, for any organization. I think almost all the organizations are looking at security first. Then you look at your cloud next. Then followed your re-architecture application, all those things. This is what is happening at. Yeah, I think a lot of investment is happening in security. Coming back to the compliance, I think while security is something of paramount importance, and when we are looking at compliance, one of the compliance, the regulator also comes in a big way, especially for a BFSI segment. And I think one of the compliance factor which I say that data residency. I think that is where we have pushed many of those hyperscalers to have their cloud setup in India. I think if you see, literally almost all hyperscalers, the presence is in India. I think this is one of the compliance requirements, and also a lot of this GDPR kind of the compliance regulations also coming to India kind of thing. I think that also plays a big role. And how do you ensure that data at rest and data in motion need to be secured, encrypted, and you'll have your own control of your keys, not by somebody else. These are the various things is the investment is happening at. Yeah, and apart from that, when you talk about the compliance also not talk about in terms of you need to follow some of the regulatory, you need to take care of your hygiene principles of data at rest, security and all. They also talk about the DR resiliency also. They also say that when your RPO written point of objective as well as written time objective kind of thing is almost like as good as zero. How do you ensure that if anything happens, there is no downtime, 100% uptime? I think that's where a lot of investment is happening to ensure that you have systems available almost 100%. So no longer nothing called 99.59. Because earlier we used to be very happy when somebody talks about 5 nines kind of thing. Now we no longer say 5 nines is of no use to me, so but it should be 100%. Yeah, these are the various things which are happening in this industry.
Absolutely, Ramesh, and you bring a very important point, right? The disaster recovery resiliency. It had always been a challenge, and more so in the banking space. Just tying it back to the cloud, it gives us a golden opportunity to look at the whole resiliency architecture differently, right? Rather than having a near site and a far site, and as you talked about 5 nines and zero downtime, right? This basically gives us a very economical way of delivering to the need of the hour, which we have in the banks, right, today.
Yeah.
So, Ramesh, moving on, as the economic environment continues to remain volatile, do you think it is time for the BFSI sector to assess their technology investments with a different lens, right? Which is basically a long-term innovation instead of the short-term fixes which we were so used to and tempted to do earlier. What more can be done? What's your point of view here?
I think because in general, if you look at every organization started looking at some of this, the basic foundation aspects of it. What I talk about are security, stability, scalability, agility. This is where a lot of investment is happening here. Security is something where how do I ensure that my data which is there is secure, nobody can access it, all kind of access control. Stability is where the way you put AI ops rather than the reactive get into predictive. What can go wrong in a month's time? Can I fix it today so that my life is better after a month? So I think this prediction is something everybody has started investing in. The third one is in terms of if you look at stability, how do you ensure that 100% uptime? What kind of infrastructure investment you need to do? What kind of new technology we need to do? What kind of automation you need to do it? How can you do it with a click of the button, move to the DR? Don't get into a manual activity or change the IP and move everything, manually restart, all those things. Doesn't happen anything. Then agility is something, how can you say that rather than building everything from the ground up, can we look at like some of the cloud components which is available, some of the components which are readily available, can you start interfacing with them? And the fifth one, which I look at it right now, the way looking at it earlier, maybe the bank was waiting for the customer to come to the bank. That case doesn't exist anymore. Now it's basically the way looking at the bank has to go to corporate or maybe go to a customer and try to give the service to him. So no longer you expect the customer to walk in kind of thing. Somewhere I think you take a look. How can you move to the customer? Like if you look at many of the channels, that's what is doing it. If they use a mobile banking, as good as sitting at home, sitting relaxed, maybe having a sip of coffee and doing a transaction on the mobile. Maybe there could be a case where it comes like you can do a transaction to Alexa also. In fact, one of the joke I keep hearing saying that he'll say, Alexa, I want to buy a car. Then Alexa replies, says that sorry, you can buy only a toy of the car. You don't have enough funds. So maybe if you want to buy a car, you need to wait for 5 years if you go with the current investments or current savings. I think these are the various interfaces where the bank will invest on, especially open banking is somewhere where the banks will invest on, where a lot of corporate, all the fintech, tie up with all the fintech so that you give the services through fintech to the customer. Customer may not be knowing to which bank he is banking on, but still he get all the service of the banking through fintech and fintech internal interface to the bank. And yeah, put a lot of effort in terms of automation so that if customer say if any user comes saying I want to open account, how quickly you going to open the account? If you say earlier days the account opening used to take around 5 days. If you look at now with video KYC, it is more like instant. I think a lot of revolutionary technologies are coming, and if you look at like the way you put it initially, like none of us could visualize that all of us will be doing this kind of connecting on the digital media and having a meeting. So at least had we spoken about 2 years back, we never dreamt that this will be the new way of working, and nobody thought people will be sitting at home and working kind of thing. But the way people adopted, I think this is a new way of working kind of thing. Yeah, there's a lot of investment are going on how to ensure that while the user as well as the employees are working at whatever the place they are, but they continue to do the work what they are, and they're able to connect to the customer. They reach the customer whenever the customer wants it. I think this is where a lot of investments are happening at, and digital is a way and connect to the customer with whatever the media you use as whether you use Alexa, whether you use Google devices, whether you use the watches. Basically, how do you present? How does the BFSI segment present in their devices at every part of his life and every minute of during his day? I think that is what the mantra. I think that is where every BFSI segment start looking at it.
Very, very, very well said, Ramesh. I mean, we are towards the conclusion now, right? We did talk about cloud, we touched upon security. Automation was one of the areas that we discussed, how to leverage our data effectively to make sense for the organization, right? And then the security. So, to conclude, the technology leaders in the financial institutions, right, can really accelerate the digital journey through, of course, the cloud adoption and the various addressing the rest of the parameters in a proper way. And as the new organization wherein IBM is spun off Kyndryl, we are very well positioned to leverage its capabilities to help this space, the financial institutions, whether it is reinventing their operations and operating models, transforming and migrating from legacy to the next generation infrastructure, keeping the costs in mind, right? Build and collaborate all your platforms with the emerging ecosystems today, which basically gives you a new opportunities to go to the market. Keeping in mind that cost and the compliance is very, very heavy, and it's going to be a very regulated area. Leveraging the new cognitive automation and data technologies to reduce the cost of compliance, right? And while doing all of this, make sure that we maintain the security posture, which is the must and the absolutely critical for any organization. So thank you very much, Ramesh, for sharing this valuable insights. Right, it was a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vikas. Have a nice day.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Vikas Prasad, Director, Service Line Sales, India and South Asia, Kyndryl, in conversation with me, Ramesh Kumar, Information Technology Consultant and ex-head IT Infrastructure and Software Development, ICICI Bank, on the subject of how can banking and financial institutions seize opportunities to start winning today. And there were some winning insights that were given in by both gentlemen. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all the insights you tabled. And I'm sure we're leaving with some very important takeaways. We wish you and your respective organizations the very best going forward. Do stay tuned in, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back in a couple of minutes with the second trialogue of the day.